자라는 게 때론 지울 수 없는 낙인 같아 살아가는 게 나를 죄인으로 만드네. 나의 땅 나의 집 꽃이 된 사람 꽃이 된 사람 사랑하다가 나도 꽃이 되었네.
President Lee Jae-myung has embarked on a 10-day trip, which includes stops in the Middle East and Africa. He's scheduled to visit the UAE, Egypt, and South Africa, as well as Turkey, as he seeks to widen the scope of pragmatic diplomacy to the global south. South Korea's biggest firms, including Samsung, Hyundai Motors, SK, and LG, have pledged to make massive domestic investment, amid concerns that expanding U.S. investment in exchange for lower tariffs could reduce jobs and draw capital away from home. Following U.S. approval for South Korea to build nuclear-powered submarines, the U.S. Chief of Naval Operations says it would be natural for Washington to expect Seoul to use one to help counter China. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin today with President Lee Jae-myung's foreign trip, which includes Africa and the Middle East. The president left Seoul this morning to visit the UAE, Egypt, and the G20 summit in South Africa before a stop in Turkey. Our top office correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
President Lee Jae-myung is set for his longest overseas trip since taking office, a 10-day four-nation tour that begins Monday.
저는 다음 주 G20 정상회의 참석자 남아프리카 공화국으로 출국합니다.
The president will attend the two-day G20 Leader Summit in South Africa, where members will discuss solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
We will make sure that the visions we set out at the APEC leaders meeting, such as creating a global AI society and promoting recovery and growth, will be discussed at the G20 as well. We will also share our fiscal and climate policies so that South Korea can help lead relevant policy discussions.
Before and after the G20 summit, Lee will visit three Middle Eastern nations, the UAE, Egypt, and Turkey. His first stop will be the United Arab Emirates for a state visit.
The UAE is our only special strategic partner in the Middle East. Through this visit, President Lee's first to the region since taking office, we plan to expand cooperation beyond the four key areas of investment, defense, nuclear power, and energy, into advanced technology, healthcare, and culture.
In Abu Dhabi, Lee will hold a summit with President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, followed by an MOU signing ceremony and lunch. The MOUs will cover areas including artificial intelligence, business cooperation, and defense. The president will also meet business leaders from both countries, as well as the Korean Special Forces stationed in the UAE. He will then travel to Egypt, marking the 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Alongside a summit with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Lee will deliver a lecture at Cairo University outlining the administration's Middle East strategy. For his last stop following the G20 summit in South Africa, President Lee will make a state visit to Turkey, where he is expected to discuss strengthening the country's strategic partnership in defense, nuclear energy, and biotechnology with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Having wrapped up major trade and security negotiations with the United States, President Lee now turns to an extensive round of multilateral and bilateral diplomacy. His trip this time is expected to widen the scope of South Korea's pragmatic diplomacy to the global south. 송유진, Arirang News.
And South Korea's biggest corporate players prepared to invest billions into the United States, a crucial part of concluding bilateral tariff negotiations. The companies have now unveiled multi-billion-dollar plans to create new factories and jobs at home. Our Oh Soo-young has the details.
South Korea's largest conglomerates are pledging tens of billions of dollars for domestic factories, advanced technology and new jobs, as concerns rise that expanding US operations could draw capital away from home. Samsung on Sunday unveiled an investment plan worth 450 trillion won, which is around $310 billion over 5 years for semiconductors, AI computing, displays and advanced batteries. It will also hire 60,000 people domestically and expand support programs for small and mid-sized suppliers across more than 1,000 partner companies. Hyundai Motor Group announced its largest ever domestic plan, committing 125.2 trillion won, or around $86.5 billion, through 2030. This includes roughly $17.2 billion a year for AI, robotics, EVs and hydrogen systems. The group will increase hiring to 10,000 recruits next year. These announcements came as President Lee Jae-myung met the heads of Korea's major industrial groups at the Yongsan Presidential Office on Sunday. The 2-hour session took place after the release of the Korea-US Joint Fact Sheet, which summarized the outcome of the recent tariff and security talks, including Seoul's large-scale investment into American industries. South Korea's private sector, including Samsung, SK, Hyundai and LG, is expected to pitch in $150 billion. President Lee thanked executives for their role during the negotiations. However, he asked them to ensure that domestic investment in regional projects do not fall behind as US operations expand, emphasizing the importance of local employment and balanced growth alongside SMEs. While Samsung and Hyundai set the tone with the most consequential announcements, other conglomerates followed with large-scale domestic commitments. SK Group is expanding its investment beyond $88.3 billion, while LG Group plans $69 billion, focused on key materials and parts. Hanwha will spend $7.6 billion on domestic shipbuilding and defense, and HD Hyundai will invest $10.3 billion across energy and marine technologies. Celltrion will double its bioventure fund to $690 million. President Lee emphasized that enabling companies to act freely and creatively on the global stage is one of the government's core responsibilities. He pledged to review a range of support measures, including deregulation, going forward. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Seoul's presidential office has rejected media reports claiming Korea's defense cost sharing will sharply increase under the new Korea-US Joint Fact Sheet. According to the National Security Council, the cited $33 billion in comprehensive support for U.S. forces Korea is not a new burden, but a 10-year estimate, combining Korea's existing contributions with other long-standing indirect support, including rent-free land, utilities, and tax exemptions. The office stressed that the calculation excludes costs for combined military exercises or the deployment of U.S. strategic assets. It also made clear that the 12th bilateral cost-sharing agreement will not be amended, and that reports of a threefold rise in contributions are completely false. Meanwhile, the U.S. Chief of Naval Operations visited South Korea and said it would be natural for Washington to expect Seoul to use a nuclear-powered submarine in the future to help counter growing threats from China. Now, the comments came after the United States officially approved South Korea's pursuit of its first nuclear-powered submarine. Our Lee Seung-jae explains more.
The United States Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Daryl Caudill, said it would be a natural expectation for Washington to anticipate South Korea using a nuclear-powered submarine in the future to help counter growing Chinese threats.
I think the United States would expect partnership again, working as an alliance together to meet our combined goals on what the United States considers to be our pacing threat, which is China.
He added that with such a capability, the United States would expect allied cooperation to meet combined goals against what Washington considers its primary pacing threat. He noted that South Korea shares many of the same concerns regarding China and that the new platform should be seen as part of the broader strategic equation. His remarks came after the United States officially approved South Korea's pursuit of its first nuclear-powered submarine. The decision was included in a joint fact sheet summarizing the summit between President Lee Jae-myung and President Donald Trump on October 29th. Washington continues to encourage allies to increase defense spending and contribute to collective defense efforts amid a deepening strategic rivalry with China. During the summit in Gyeongju, President Lee requested U.S. approval for nuclear-fueled supplies for conventionally armed submarines, arguing that the move would help track North Korean and Chinese vessels and ease operational burdens on U.S. forces. Admiral Caudle said a nuclear-powered submarine offers a completely different level of deterrence capability and that operating such a vessel will likely elevate South Korea's responsibilities both regionally and globally. Caudle also said combined naval drills in international waters of the West Sea remain an option when countering Chinese threats. Currently, most joint exercises are held in the eastern and southern waters off the Korean peninsula. He also expressed confidence that South Korea will play an important role in strengthening American shipbuilding capacity during his visits to local shipyards. Although legal limits exist on cooperation involving combat vessels, he said the two countries can move forward quickly on support platforms such as supply ships, auxiliary vessels, refueling tankers, and car carriers. 이승재, Arirang News.
The South Korean Navy will participate in the ROK-U.S. combined anti-submarine warfare exercise, Silent Shark 2025, starting Tuesday in waters near Guam. The one-month drill has been held every 2 years since 2007 to strengthen combined operational capabilities between South Korean and U.S. submarines and aircraft. For this year, South Korea will deploy the ROKS Ahn Mu, a 3,000-ton Dosan Anchangho-class submarine, along with 2 P-3 maritime patrol aircraft. This year marks the first time that the Ahn Mu, a submarine built using domestic defense technologies, will take part in an overseas combined exercise. In other news, a Korean scientist who had been detained by U.S. immigration authorities for 4 months has been released. According to the Korean American Educational Services and Coordinating Council on Sunday, Kim Tae-heung, who is a green card holder and has lived in the United States for over 35 years, was released the day before. He had been taken into custody at San Francisco International Airport on July 21st, while returning from his younger brother's wedding in South Korea. His detention caused significant concern in the Korean-American community because the circumstances of the arrest were viewed as unconvincing. Kim was held at a detention center in Texas and is a doctoral student at Texas A&M University, where he conducts research on a Lyme disease vaccine. And we're fully into fall, and with the nation painted in fall colors, many people are hitting the road to enjoy the autumn foliage. In Wonju, Gangwon-do Province, a single magnificent tree has turned a local spot into a must-visit fall destination. Our Chae Young reports.
A tree that has stood for over 1,000 years greets another autumn. Golden leaves have settled on its branches, blotting out the sky. Visitors come one after another, eager to enjoy the beautiful sight of the ancient tree.
I believe that this is the best ginkgo tree in the whole world. I am so in love with this tree right now.
The ginkgo tree in Bangeri, Gangwon-do Province stands 32 meters tall with a trunk circumference of 16 meters. Its sprawling branches form a small forest of their own, glowing entirely in shades of gold and creating a breathtaking spectacle. Enchanted by its fairy tale beauty, everyone is busy taking pictures to capture the moment.
We came on a family trip to celebrate my mother's 70th birthday. I'd heard that ginkgo trees symbolize longevity, so I really wanted to see it up close. This grand and beautiful tree has made this family trip all more meaningful.
There's an old tale that this tree grew from a sprout that emerged from a monk's staff, which he has stuck into the ground while passing by. Another story tells that a white snake lives inside the tree, making it a sacred being that no one touches. This Ginkgo tree was designated as a natural monument in 1964. Last year, analysis by the National Institute of Forest Science confirmed that its actual age is 1,318 years. The Pangiri Ginkgo tree, now at the peak of its autumn colors, is expected to maintain its breathtaking beauty for about another week. 차윤경, 아리랑 뉴스.
This is the world now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Chileans are voting today for a new president and parliament in an election focused heavily on organized crime and immigration. This is the first of two expected rounds, with no presidential contender projected to reach the 50% needed to avoid a 14th of December runoff. Voters face sharply different options: Communist Party member and former minister Janet Jara and conservative Jose Antonio Cast, among several right-wing challengers. For the first time in Chile's history, voting is mandatory for all eligible citizens, with millions of newly registered voters and fines for those who abstain. Preliminary vote counting results are scheduled to be announced at 8 p.m. local time on Sunday. Thousands of Mexicans protested on Saturday against the drug-related violence that claims tens of thousands of lives each year. In Mexico City, a peaceful march turned violent when some protesters threw rocks at riot police. Authorities report about 100 officers were injured and 40 were taken to hospital, with around 20 protesters also hurt. Clashes also erupted in Guadalajara, where 47 people were detained and several more were injured. Demonstrators demanded stronger security, pointing to the recent killing of a local mayor who had fought drug gangs. Mexico's president condemned the violence. In the U.S., a major feud inside the Republican Party is escalating as Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and President Donald Trump break publicly. Greene says Trump's recent attacks calling her a, quote, traitor are putting her safety at risk. She told CNN on Sunday that she still supports Trump, but disagrees with his reluctance to release all federal files linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Their relationship has deteriorated in recent weeks over Trump's focus on foreign policy and Greene's push for full release of Epstein files. The House is expected to vote this week on a bill that would force the Justice Department to release all unclassified Epstein records. The Vatican hosted several Hollywood figures on Saturday as Pope Leo met a group of actors and directors, including Cate Blanchett and Spike Lee. The event at the Pope's Apostolic Palace aimed to deepen the church's dialogue with cinema and highlight the role of artistic creativity in promoting human values. The audience is also part of the Catholic Church's wider cultural program during its Holy Year. Choi Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
After a lovely mild weekend, it got really cold again overnight, almost like winter just skipped the line and walked right in. We've had a big push of cold air from the north, so temperatures dropped fast while we were sleeping. Wind pushed the feels-like temperatures down to near 0 degrees in the capital, and it will go down tomorrow even further at -4 degrees, but rather feels like -8 degrees. Meanwhile, there is a chance of rain across the west coast tonight, But as the temperatures will drop even more, that rain could turn into snow for Jeollado and mountainous areas of Jeju Island. And this afternoon, Seoul will be only getting up to 6 degrees Celsius, which is about 13 degrees lower than Sunday. Daegu, Gwangju will be getting up to 9 degrees this afternoon. A strong wind advisory on both the west and east coast will make it feel even colder. But some welcome news, this harsh cold will not last too long. From the middle of the week, things should start to ease up.
And that's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.
That all the meals here serve as a foundation of its practices.